Time now for weather with Nebraska Extension Ag Climatologist and Market Journal Chief Meteorologist Al Dutcher. And Al, we've seen some warm temperatures, but also major flooding in parts of the state. What can we expect in the latest forecast?
Well, Troy, you're exactly right. We did see a lot of sunshine this week, but we also seen some pretty significant thunderstorm activity, particularly in south central Nebraska, where as we got into Monday afternoon into the Tuesday morning time period, we had a warm front slowly moving through the state, and basically the thunderstorms basically formed over south central Nebraska, and unfortunately there was very little movement with them, and they tended to train on top of each other until the cold front pushed them all to the east. So broad-based coverage, we had a lot of reports in the 6 to 8 inch range from the Nebraska Rain Network, and broad-based coverage anywhere from about 3 inches to 7.5, 8 inches was common over the last 7-day period for much of south central Nebraska. And of course we have the resulting flooding. Unfortunately, those systems basically petered out as they moved toward the east, and much of eastern Nebraska missed out on the significant moisture, and we're actually showing deficits across east central and northeast Nebraska for the last 30 days, pushing in the 1/2 inch up to almost 1.75 inches up in the area just to the north of the West Point area. So there is some dryness, and there has also been very warm temperatures the last few weeks, and we look to see more of that continue. So as we go to the upper model, we'll notice that we got that big high pressure ridge in place. We do have Hurricane Barry coming on shore in Louisiana. It's going to drop a significant amount of moisture in the lower Mississippi River Valley, as you see the low pressure system associated with that starting to move inland. But high pressure dominates much of the central United States. And even though we are showing a scattering of thunderstorm activity, that's just basically some residual leftover. That's the systems that move through the northern part of the state in the overnight hours. And as we go into tomorrow, that high pressure ridge is still in place, very warm conditions. The hurricane now moves up into basically southern portions of Mississippi, spreading very heavy precipitation, and then some weak systems moving in the jet stream basically to the north of us and through Iowa. And as we get into Monday, now we start to see the ridge starting to stag just a little bit toward the south. Low pressure is indicated to develop in southwestern Kansas, but the main activity will be once again in the lower Ohio River Valley as we see the impacts of the hurricane moving to the north, and a little bit of moisture over the central Rockies. This system gets entrained into the flow as we start to zonal it out, and a couple little subtle waves we're moving through on Tuesday, with once again low pressure shown to be forming in southwestern portions of Kansas. That may give it just enough lift to generate some light scattered thunderstorm activity, but again, most of the heavy precipitation to our east. And then on Wednesday, we start to see the ridge starting to make us move back toward the north, even though we see low pressure lined up in the panhandle of Nebraska and northwestern Kansas. Really, there's not a tremendous amount of flow moving toward the north, so just some isolated thunderstorm activity is being painted in southeastern and northwestern portions of Missouri, southeastern Nebraska. And then on Thursday, the ridge builds a little bit farther to the north. Even though we have low pressures lined up here with the high pressure in place, it's very likely that we will see nothing in the way of significant moisture outside of a few waves moving through South Dakota, impacting northern Nebraska. And then on Friday, the heat returns with a vengeance as the high pressure builds dominant over much of the upper Midwest, and we start to see low pressure moving into the western United States. Surface lows develop in southwestern Kansas, but once again, with that high pressure in place and the atmosphere cap, not a lot of movement for moisture and the development of moisture. More importantly, we're starting to see the monsoon kick in, so we'll start to watch this the next few weeks to see if that moisture starts to entrain itself up into the western high plains. 8 to 14-day forecast keeps the heat in place at least for the next 2 weeks, and in terms of precipitation, much drier forecast for the western Corn Belt.